We're going to talk today about Webtelligence, which is our e-commerce platform integrated to Sage 300 among other things. So for those of you who don't know us, we've been doing this for quite some time, back in the days of the DOS world when the product was called ACPAC Plus, and we've been providing products for that, and then all the way through the ages, I guess, up to its current incarnation of Sage 300C 2017, which is the latest release. So we've had lots of products over the years. Many of them Sage now owns, and they've incorporated them into the main product. So from 2014 and beyond, there's a lot of our functionality built right into the native Sage 300 product. We work very closely with Sage. In fact, they did contract us to build our products into their solution, so a very intimate knowledge of what goes on inside the inner workings of Sage 300. We're going to touch today mainly on three areas. So they are the web store, they are a salesperson portal, and they are the self-serve customer portal. And many of these things, well, one of them anyway, self-serve customer portal, is more or less a standalone component, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It can be incorporated as part of the entirety of an e-commerce platform or deployed on its own, and we'll talk about how that works. So first of all, let's just start up with the web store. The reason we got into this business in the first place relative to specifically integrated web stores is because as people started to get online and sell their products online, integration into their accounting system was not really a thought, and it's come up now as kind of an afterthought, and they've sort of created a beast that now has become something they have to keep feeding, which is all this manual effort required to, number one, keep the site current with what you keep inside of your Sage system with all the products and pricing and everything like that, and also getting the orders down from the web store into your system. There's a number of ways that happens in a semi-automated form. Maybe it's an email, maybe it's some import-export, but the new, more modern systems actually take care of all this stuff automatically. This manual process is also an issue when you're taking payments on the web. Of course, if you don't have an AR customer and you require them to pay for the product before you ship it, you're going to need to take a credit card. And you'll want to make sure that that stuff all gets passed down through as well, and that process is as automated as possible. And another sort of issue that folks face is in the business-to-business environment, you've got lots of customers that have accounts with you, and you don't necessarily expect them to pay for things in advance. And you may also have specific pricing relative to those particular customers. So it's a problem to try and serve up that sort of unique, specific experience to those customers on a generic type of a web store. So these are some of the problems that folks are encountering that led to the development of integrated web stores. So our solution is fully integrated, and when we say integrated, we don't just mean to Sage 300, we mean to any service or other component that you might have in your business that you require to deliver a full experience to your customers. It could be online payments, as we talked about. It could be integration to tax services online, so you're in compliance with every tax jurisdiction, to freight companies, to analytics, to all the social media platforms. All this stuff is integrated, and that completes the experience for your customers. And we've just listed a few here, and of course there could be more that you're thinking about. And we design an experience that's very specific to your customers for your products. We don't present to you a bunch of templates and say, pick one that, maybe best suits what you want to do. We'll develop it very specifically around your corporate branding, your image, your identity, something you've built over the past however number of years you've been in the business and worked hard to develop. We respect that, and we actually will produce that in your web store so that image is portrayed properly for your customers. We are a software as a service. That's what SaaS means, which means it's, if you want to get technical, multi-tenant, which essentially means there is one product and all customers work off of that one product. Now, there may be a misconception out there that means that people think that means everybody has to be exactly the same, which is entirely untrue. We have a number of features and functionality in the product that you can choose to deploy or not. And in fact, we can even go so far as to deploy merchant-specific functionality for your site if it is not in the standard offering. So there's nothing stopping us from producing every bit of functionality that you want for your site. Another big benefit of doing things this way is that We maintain compatibility with the later releases of Sage. So as you upgrade through your different versions of Sage, largely your web store is unaffected by that because of the way we communicate. But even if there was some effect that we had to work on, we only have to do the work once, and every customer gets that benefit. Unlike other systems whereby you have a separate instance of every customer's web store, that means when there's an upgrade, the vendor or the publisher has to go back and upgrade every site independently. So if you've got a big long line of people wanting an upgrade, you have to, number one, get in line, and number two, pay for it. So for us, one bit of effort services all customers simultaneously. We do run on Apache on Linux. The chart here kind of illustrates what other web developers around the world are using. It is by far the preferred methodology for web store or website deployment. It's solid, it's stable, it doesn't go down when you have to apply patches, that kind of thing. So it's just a very good architecture for web stores, and that's why we use it. We deal with two primary means of communication. Data port on the left here. This deals with primarily the mass movement of information between the two systems, so between Sage and the back office and the web, essentially, which is your face to the world. We do move some information up to our web servers to facilitate this. This will be your product information, so your items out of Sage with their relevant pricing, and some basic customer information, so we can qualify who's coming in and what to serve up to them in the way of an experience. It also brings down orders and payments from the web to automatically get them inside of Sage for fulfillment. So we automatically inherit all the information out of Sage, which you would have for descriptions in your items, but I think you'd all agree that that's probably not a rich enough explanation or experience for customers who are doing some web shopping. They want to see more. They want to see images. They want to see videos. They want to see a lot more data or information about the products they want to buy. Dataport also serves as the means for you to supplement any information that comes automatically out of Sage and provide that richer shopping experience up to the web. So you'll associate your pictures there and anything else that you want to supplement the product descriptions with. The other means of communication we call Connect. And Connect actually reads data live out of the system on demand. So it's a very secure communication. It's an IP to IP call, and it's also encrypted in the process. But we use this I mentioned the customer portal earlier that can be deployed separately. This is the technology that we use for that. So a customer will log in once we've verified their credentials. They can then call up their account and have a look at it and act on the account in a way that you've allowed them or want them to do. So they can view their history and their payments and make payments online and reprint invoices and all that kind of thing. And we read this data directly from Sage, but only on demand, so it's never stored on a web server anywhere. And we can read any data that's in Sage 300 for as much history as you're maintaining. So it's up to you how much you want to display, but if it's in there, we can serve it up to your customers and show it to them and let them act on it. That's your choice as to how much you want to show them and what you want them to do with it. Let's talk a little bit about what a salesperson portal is. And I guess an easy way to think about this is it's kind of like maybe a slightly scaled down version of a full web store. I mean, it can be essentially a full web store, but oftentimes what folks want from a salesperson portal is something a little bit less than that. So the reason the salesperson portal is important is because you've got, let's say there's a number of scenarios where this might come into play. You've got field salespeople out calling on customers in their locations or meeting at coffee shops, or perhaps you're at a trade show. Or this could actually be used on the showroom floor as well to walk around with a customer and compile an order as you're doing that. So lots of different applications for why a salesperson portal might be useful. And the challenges that folks are facing in trying to do these kind of things is you typically don't have access to all the information that you need to interact very well with the customer. So for instance, you may not have full access to your entire product catalog. You may not have access to the customer's terms codes and know if they're current or not. Their price list, so you know what products are eligible to buy and at what pricing. So there's a whole bunch of information that is not really at your fingertips if you don't have something like this in place. And then you're left with okay, so we did take an order. How did you do it? Did you fill out a manual paper order sheet? Did you compose an email and send it off to the office so somebody has to rekey this into Sage? So a lot of duplication of effort there. And if you're not in a fully automated and connected system, then you've got delays, potential delays in fulfillment, which means delays in payment, which is going to impact your cash flow. So putting the tools and the information in the hands of your salespeople to do business with your customers anytime, anywhere, that's what the salesperson portal deals with. So you'll have access to the customer-specific pricing, to the credit standing, their terms, your entire catalog, or specifically those products that that customer is eligible to buy. Your salespeople can work on any device because we'll make this scalable so that it works properly and displays properly on with the device that they have in their hand. It's available 24/7. You know, your office doesn't have to be open for them to do this. And stuff flows automatically into Sage for fulfillment. Nobody has to rekey anything. So it's just about being connected and having the product availability and everything at hand so your salespeople can work essentially independently of the office, but having full connectivity and providing that superior customer engagement. Let's talk a little bit about the self-serve customer portal. And similarly here, self-service is becoming an expectation now. I mean, certainly it is for me when I do business with anybody online. If I can self-serve, I will self-serve. It doesn't mean you don't want to communicate with your customers. Certainly you do so, but generally speaking, you want to do so in more high-value interactions. So, you know, routine queries like, you know, what's my account balance? I didn't get my last invoice. Can you resend it to me? You know, things like that that are fairly routine that people could very easily do themselves. You can bring that all and put that all into the hands of your customers. So some of the problems you might see if you're fielding these kind of requests, and if you get a lot of them, it's going to backlog all of these requests by other customers for stuff that perhaps is revenue generating. So, you know, if you're spending all your time on the telephone handling these routine requests, you're not giving the service to the folks in a timely manner that they might expect. So the perception might be that you're slow to respond, you're giving poor service, which can be, you know, fairly disastrous to the business. So by putting a lot of this in the hands of your customers, you're doing a couple of things. You're giving them something that they actually expect. You're taking the burden off of your staff so that they're now able to, you know, use their time for more valuable customer interactions and for revenue generating activities. And again, this stuff is available 24/7 and on any device the customer wants to use. So they don't have to wait for you to be open to get the information they want. They can do it from the comfort of their homes or on whatever device that they want to use as well. So again, it's all about the connectivity, the expectation of the customers, and the ability for them to serve themselves when they want and when it's convenient for them. So they're working on their time and not on yours. So that's I believe my quick summary about what this stuff is all about, just to kind of set it up for the live presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Etienne now, and he is going to show us the live product.
Thank you, Pete. As I go into the live product, I would like to just make a few things you aware of, a few things. One, I will be dealing only with websites running live on our software right now, so any functionality that I do show here will be available to any of our customers. The second issue that I would like to make you aware of as we go through here is that I'll be dealing primarily with three groups: the look and feel, the shopping cart, in other words, the customer portal, and the salesperson portal. And I would like to leave you with three ideas at the end of this. Of course, in the limited time we have to show every feature and function is just simply not possible. So I'd like to leave you with this. One, the look and feel of your website is not prescribed by us. Number two, the functionality of the software, because of the technology we can deploy, is virtually limitless. We are not dictated by things like a database design on the website, meaning that if our database will not accommodate a field which you've added into your system, it means we cannot deploy that piece of functionality or that piece of data because of the fact that we can read it live out of your system. That database design is not a limit on your system. And then lastly, the long-term return on investment on this product is the best in class. There are no upgrade fees. These things are covered by our monthly costs, and so ultimately the return on investment on an e-commerce site for your organization is the best of all integrated packages on the market. Okay, let me then start by going through some product demos here. And as I said, I want to deal firstly with look and feel. Look and feel is critically important, and the concept here is that we do not prescribe what your website should look like. Your website has to be designed to deal with your customers and in order to sell your specific product. And so I'm going to take you just through a few look and feels here, and as I go through, remember that all of these websites are literally running on the same piece of software. And that should give you an idea of how we can employ things which we call merchant functions, which even though this is a hosted solution, we can deploy uniquely specific pieces of functionality for a customer if that should be required. Here's an example. Dreamland, by design of what they do, wanted a very colorful website. They sell ribs, they want it to be succulent. The whole theme here of the license plates is painting a picture of southern ribs or southern hospitality. As we draw into these ribs, we get about our ribs, and have a look at the amount of information that's displayed on here about our ribs. There's a customer review here. Find a restaurant. There are additional. You may also want to add these things, so we're doing an upsell of the product here. And even on this page, there are two methods of deploying product. The one is a choice, so I want one slab or two slabs or three slabs, and this could quite easily be dealt with in a drop-down list as well. And then we've got the add-ons. I want to add that to this product, and I want to add this to this product, and that to this product. And this is not mutually exclusive because I'm building, if you will, a kit or a bill of material here, which you're going to pass through to the customer on the other end. So despite the fact that it's a very colorful website, in literally every one of its pages here is meant to reflect a sort of a southern barbecue ribs atmosphere, the functionality behind this website is absolutely enormous. Show you another one. And this is a company called Florist Supplies, and so no surprise here. They supply flowers. They are one of the largest florist supplies in Canada. And so, of course, they've got a very colorful website. You do not want to go to Florist Supplies and end up on a very drab website. I need to mention also here that in terms of design services, the customer may employ their own web designers, or they may make use of ours. We do have internal web design. So Dreamland, the previous site I showed, was designed by our internal team in cooperation with Dreamland. This site was designed entirely by Florist Supplies. We did not have any input in the design of the site. And this is a good point also to stop and say that every site design we do now, we very strongly encourage, and I say that only because we do allow the customer to design their own sites independent of us, but we very strongly encourage that websites are now designed to be interactive, to be reactive or responsive to the devices, for example, that they are being read on. Somewhere in the region of 65% of all web access is now done on mobile devices. So a website has to be mobile aware. It has to be able to run on a mobile device. You'll see that, for example, in this site. So if we drop this site page down to something a little bit more manageable, that would be a typical screen or computer screen. That might be a very typical iPad screen turned flat, And then when eventually we reach the point where it goes into a phone design, that you'll see that the background image has been dropped. We do not want to consume large pieces of data on a mobile device. And the menu, which if we pull this open just a little bit, was still a drop-down menu which reacted to something hovering over it. Bear in mind that on a mobile device you cannot hover, and so the menus have disappeared, and we now have the click down menu where you click to bring that menu down. So that is a very typical mobile menu icon, and anybody with the phone is going to recognize that and put their finger on that, and when you do, the menu is going to open up. So our sites design are responsive. It is built into the software in order to give an appropriate feedback on the device that you are accessing it with. We do have concepts of profiles and skins, so based on whom the user is, once they log in, of course, we can change the profile or the skin of what that user sees. So if you have an organization that sells, say, motor car parts, and they sell both to Ford and to GM, they can have a generic landing page, welcome to the Mopar retailer site or distributor site. And once you log in, it assumes your character. So a person from Ford will log in, and they'll have the Ford logo on the top, and the colors will all be customized for them. The guy from GM logs in, and likewise, he'll think he's on a GM site. And so a skin is the ability for us to interchange really the CSS file underneath based on who's accessing it. And of course, that allows us to determine functionality based on the user. A user may not go places where, of course, they do not see that on the menu, and so we can keep them away from that. We also have a concept which we call child sites, and within a child site, we have the ability to put out another URL, another public-facing website, but literally residing on the same piece of data. And of course, that data is then controlled by price list and skin and what they may and may not see, and so on. Okay, let me move on. In terms of design, I want to show you just one or two more sites just to kind of demonstrate a more, say, a distributor site. Micro Tools is one of those sites which employs a very large-scale sales. These guys have approximately 18,000 SKUs on here. Again, it is very responsive to mobile devices. And this would be a very typical shopping cart. These would be product highlights that they want to put up here. Here's the ability to drill down based on the actual manufacturer. And you will see, for example, that category listing here is absolutely huge. And once we drill into a category, we get a more clinical approach here. And this is good because, of course, this adapts very well to mobile devices without making the graphics so small that it is unreadable. The question of this available or not is being read real-time out of the system. And Micro Tools, incidentally, employs also our integration into Amazon. And so the same piece of software is controlling the upload of data, pricing, etc. to Amazon and their own website, as well as downloading orders from Amazon and their own website. I want to stop there. Actually, I do want to do one more just to give you a concept of the scope of look and feel, and that would be a company called Edo Japan. Edo Japan, as you might know, is a franchise-driven Japanese steakhouse. This is their franchise portal, and so it is sitting as a subdomain of their main site. And the look and feel here is entirely different because they are expecting whoever logs in here to do almost catalog purchasing. In other words, there are no pictures, there are no neat look and feel issues here. This is open my catalog and have a look at it. We've also employed a bit of the customer portal so they can view their account, they can view old transactions. They have the ability to open up all old orders and then process based on that. But primarily here, the goal of this website is to open up for them a catalog view of purchasing, and this is what they then see. So I can close this down and say, I want to order dry goods, or I want to order vegetable goods, or show me my entire catalog. What appears on this catalog is dependent on the items that appear in the prices for this particular franchisee, so we can control what he sees in his catalog here as well. The concept here, a radically different approach to selling than clicking through pictures, etc. And this would be also very typical layout of, for example, a salesperson full portal. You would have noticed here that there are some of these items that are already on order. That is another function of the website. It will keep a have processed order open for a period of time or based on some conditions, and you can then entirely discard that process if you want to, or I can now simply go ahead and say, this is what I have on order, go ahead and process this order. And you'll see here we do things like expected delivery dates. This is when I want the product delivered. If there were multiple shipping options here, I'd be able to choose that. If I can pay on account, that is my only option. This is determined by terms code, so if I didn't have the necessary terms code, the system would insist that I either pay by PayPal or credit card or ACH or whatever payment terms I've made available to this particular customer. Okay, with that being said, I spent a lot of time on look and feel, so I want to move on now and just kind of say that I think I've demonstrated the shopping cart. The shopping cart and the way in which we shop here very much depends on how we lay out our website. I'm going to log in Webtelligence. Here is SAM Ltd is our own internal website. It's not designed to be particularly beautiful looking. This is where we play around and click buttons and test functionality. But I can show you one piece of functionality. For example, if you look at the colors of the logo here, that's this kind of light blue or teal. When I log in, we're going to swap that out for a green looking site. And that's a profile in action. It's a very subtle profile change, but it does demonstrate that we can change the profile based on who logs in, who does not log in. Product layout here, anything from, say, a grid kind of a view here. And again, this depends on your product and what you want to sell, who you want to sell to. If we drill deeper into the product, you'll see that there are components on here. There are components like inventory, which is coming live out of inventory control. This icon here is driven by an optional field inside of inventory control on this product. These are, you may also be interested in, related products. These are customers bought. You might also want to buy these. This is system generated, and I've got some referencing at the bottom here. We have put the shopping cart in place, and the shopping cart has a hover, which I'll show a little later on. When you hover over it, it will drop down almost a tilt slip summary of what will be in the shopping cart. So anywhere on the system where you're navigating, all you need to do is hover over the cart, and it's going to show you that detail. Wish lists, multiple wish lists, set them up as catalogs. Customer can buy these or set up their own catalogs and then order or reorder from that. If you're used to Amazon, this is the concept. It will work pretty much exactly the same. Okay, I do want to move on at this point to the customer portal. And as I do so, we will hit more and more functionality and expand on what the system can do. This is sort of a typical view of a customer login account, very icon-driven. It is becoming more and more the norm now to have more of a dashboard view when the customer lands. And so, of course, we have the ability to do that. This dashboard is read real-time out of the system. So this information is A, not stored on the web, and B, literally real-time. So as I click that icon, the website requested that data from us internally and rendered that up to the screen. What these things look like is pretty much up to you, the information you want to store. This is just a sample. We've got kind of your account status, your reference, your sales for the past 2 years. Remember that this is sample data, so the years here are sample data years, your current balance. The graph is read and built real time, order summary, last 5 transactions, and so on. And those icons are now represented by links and by links here. So open orders would be the same as my order summary link, etc. Let me just go back to my account and run through these very quickly. I do not want to spend too much time on this. Account activity very commonly would be some sort of summary of what you want to show the customer. Again, this is not template driven. We'll put on here whatever you want us to put on here and what you think your customer is going to find beneficial. View transactions will do exactly that. Allow us to draw into the transactions. These are read real time. I can limit this down by transaction type, for example. Once I've got a transaction that I want to view, I can drill down into that transaction. And of course, I can now go ahead and print myself a copy or a PDF copy of that transaction. Likewise here on the customer portal, let me just go back here. Pay account online would do just that. If the customer goes ahead and pays his account online here, he can choose what he wants to pay. We've allowed on this particular layout here. And again, I just want to reiterate that this will look the way you want to look, and it'll have the functionality you want it to have. But we can open up, the customer can open up and have a look at what were on particular invoices, and then they can decide whether they want to pay them or not. Open orders will show open orders. We do provide the ability here, for example, to show quotes. I do not think this customer has a quote in OE. This data, again, is read real time, so this would literally be the data as at the moment that I push this button. So the moment that something ships in OE, it's going to reflect on here. This data is not synchronized. There's no limit on how far back you can go with this. And of course, you can do something like give the customer the ability to look at quotes. You can issue a quote internally, let the customer look at it here, and the customer can then authorize that quote here, and all of that, because we do not actually store this data on the web. This data is read from your internal system real time. The customer also has the option, for example, to search by item number. So if you have large volumes, he can go look at by item number, and then when he finds that, he can then click into the order and view that particular order. And of course, he has the ability to go ahead and print that order out if he wants to do that. Let me start finishing up here. He can look at his purchase history, allows him to look back at what he has bought. This will go back either as far as you maintain on your system, or it will go back as far as you want us to go back and limit it to, say, 2 or 3 years back. You can also then allow the customer to repurchase from that. So let us go back and have a look, for example, at old invoices of this customer and how the customer can then go ahead and reorder based on his old invoices. So we'll bring up his old invoices for him. He can click that open, and I want to order those 3 things on this order, on this old invoice. I'll go ahead and add that to my shopping cart. And those 3 items from an old invoice is now reflected. Here's that drop down on my shopping cart. There are the 3 items I've now gone ahead and added into my shopping cart. Finally, let me deal just very briefly with sales rep and the permutations of what that could be. In its most basic form, if I log in as a sales rep, I have the ability to open up an order entry type form for my processing. And this form, if it's well laid out, will work very, very well on mobile devices. So we have the ability here to make this run very well on, say, an iPad or a Samsung tablet or some mobile device. Because we know that it needs to react differently, for example, the finder, wherever that's employed in the system, will work based on feedback from the user. In other words, it will monitor that field, and as I type data in, it's going to extract a list of potential matches at the background. So if I want to, say, get bar mark, all I need to type in is a number of characters, and the system is going to select. I'm going to back that up, and let's say bar. Now I get a whole list. And of course, as I type in, the system is going to narrow down my selection to what I want to do. And it does that based on whatever number of fields we've designated for it to do that with. So typically in a customer search, We'll look for customer number, customer name, phone number, zip code, contact person, and it will search across that. And we'll do the same here at the bottom. So if we say we want to look at products with 103 in them, that will come up. There are 2 products with 103 in the SKU number. Alternatively, if we want to look for something in the description, we can go ahead and type that in. It's going to give us whatever's in that description. As a salesperson, I now have the option to override PO if you want to do that. Customer type, my price list, the terms code, I can put some comments in here for the customer. So this is order entry running on the web. If you do give your salespeople the option to override pricing, they can go ahead and override the pricing for a product. If you have multiple SKUs or units of measure, the system is going to ask in which unit of measure you are selling. So really, this is order entry running on the web. The alternative, or the other end of the spectrum of what a salesperson could do, is literally take over and inquire on the entire account of a customer. And I'll show you one example of that, and that would be a customer called Aruba Trading Company. And Aruba Trading Company, as you might guess, is on the island of Aruba, and they send their salespeople out with an iPad in the mornings, and they do a route, and they collect data or collect orders from the customers on their route. And so this entire website is designed only for the salespeople, and it's designed only to run on a mobile device. So I'm going to just emulate that so that you get the idea of what a typical application will look like for them. So I've logged in now as a salesperson called George Wong. And what George wants to do now is move from client to client without logging in and out, and simply bring up that client's account. So I can now go in and say I want to deal with my first client, and this is this guy. And just for your information, I am not showing you any live information here. We do have Aruba's permission to log in, and this is a test account for us. So I have now logged in. You'll see, and I've even changed language because this customer has a different language here. And I am now still George Wong, but I'm now logged into a client's account, 14biz. I can get client information, and that would be whatever information we want to show him. I can change the location, and this would be the truck that I'm driving, so I can actually stipulate from which truck I'm delivering for him. I can go and have a look at the client's account and the current status. I can have a look at his last orders, and then likewise I can place an order based on that. So I can go in here, have a look at what he ordered, and then say go ahead and either reorder all of that or I want to order selected products of that. So that reordering function now employed, but for a salesperson. And thus he can now continue shopping on behalf of that customer. I am still acting on behalf of 14biz. So I'll say, okay, go ahead and shop. And here is another look and feel issue. Remember, this is running on a pad, so we try and avoid little things that needs a mouse to click. So I have big buttons that my finger can be put on. And instead of the usual search, we employ a filter. And so I say I want wines. And I want to select the wines that I do by country, for example, or by brand, or by grape type. And I'll say, let's do country, and I want all American wines, and I want all French wines, and you'll see my filter building here. And now go ahead and find all the wines that match that criteria. Here are my wines, and I now have a really big button that I can go ahead and push. And as I do that, these things will be added. So let's add that guy to my cart. And then as we go checkout, likewise, the buttons are big. There's no small remove button here. It's a big button. I can go ahead and remove that item from my product. So here is a salesperson portal where the salesperson is literally transacting on behalf of the customer. I can look at the customer's account. I can tell the customer while he's sitting in front of me what the status of his account might be, and I can transact on behalf of him. We also have a layout here, a look and feel with a very specific design to run on a mobile device, and it does that very well.
just to kind of tie everything together here and to reiterate what we talked about, Webtelligence is an e-commerce platform that essentially ties together your back office systems, starting with Sage 300 and anything else you need to integrate to, onto the web, which is essentially your face to the world. We do so through Dataport, which deals with that mass movement of information, as well as with Connect, which reads data live. Now, we mentioned this a little bit, and I'm not sure the point was really hammered home, but we're not limited to data that lives inside of Sage 300. In fact, any ODBC compliant data source, any SQL table, we listed CRM as an example here, we can access that information as well and serve it up to your customers if it makes sense for your business to do so. Etienne mentioned one of our customers has an integration into Amazon, and he can use Dataport to maintain both his instances to Amazon and his web store all from one place, so he doesn't have to have multiple administration means to keep his web presences updated. So that's pretty much the quick overview, I guess, of what Webtelligence is all about, and the three main areas being the web store, the customer portal, and the salesperson portal. So my contact information is here.
Thank you, everyone, for the day.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.